If you know me at all, you know I love old games, and if you don't, hi. My name's Myloe. I've reviewed tons of N64 games on my channel already, feel free to check some of those out, and my latest video covers my latest excursion in old school RuneScape, so you could say that I've been around the block with these retro titles. Well, lately, I was watching a Super Mario 64 speedrunning stream by Punke while I was working on my content, and at one point I looked back at the stream and he switched to a new game. All I saw when I looked at this stream was creative movement, a player character that has low frame rate animations, and some really creative level designs. Immediately I knew I wanted to play this game, and in looking it up on Steam, I found it was only $7 in Canadian currency. Today, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be looking at the retro visual 3D platforming Metroidvania, Pseudoregalia. To kick this game off, we have a little cutscene. Nothing crazy happens here, we're just shown this dilapidated castle area with a couple little goat dudes trapped in cages. The camera pans over to this mirror, and with a white flash, we've arrived to begin our journey. And let me just be pretty upfront with the story in this game as I've seen it from my first playthrough, it's pretty absent. In talking to a bunch of these little goat characters throughout the game, most of what they talk about is how the castle that we're in is in pretty bad shape. Things aren't the way that they used to be. Aside from these little environmental comments, there really isn't anything else to see here. Supposedly, we've come through this mirror in order to bring the castle back to its glory days, or at least to improve the state it's in by confronting the forces that turned it into what it's become, but it's all very reliant on context clues, which I do think is pretty cool. We aren't forced to learn everything about this place, but there are hints and clues towards finding out more if you're willing to look for them. And with no real obligation to the story of the game, let's talk about how it plays. Firstly, the movement feels great. Your jumps can be really high and floaty or really low and brief depending on how long you hold the jump button, and oftentimes throughout the game you're able to use your momentum to your advantage in order to move really quickly through the game. Getting out of the first area, we actually get our hands on the ability to use a mind map of this world as we adventure through it, which is quite helpful as the map for every area does tend to get pretty big. The green room signifies the room that we're in, and all of the other rooms are rooms that we've been to previously. In classic Metroidvania style, these blue rooms will show all the doors between them so that you know how to navigate from one to another, or so that you can see which rooms have an exit that you haven't gone through yet. Very classic Metroidvania here. The only difficulty in working with this map is that we're in a 3D platformer looking at a top-down map, and we don't even have an arrow or anything showing where we are within the room or which direction we're facing. Sometimes this makes it pretty difficult to know where exactly you are in the room you're in without just walking into a different one to check the map to kind of understand exactly where you're at. Just a minor thing, but I definitely got used to navigating it pretty fast, so I wouldn't take any points away from the game for that. It all comes back with familiarity. Further to our movement, we've got a wall run, which works quite smoothly and allows you to gain height for free in small hallways, and finally we get an ability to attack enemies mid-air to get a small jump off of them, used for certain platforming areas or just for grabbing some collectible power-ups throughout the game. With all of this movement, this game just feels like a sandbox for the player to move freely through, but until you've collected all these power-ups, you'll often run into areas that you're unable to cross. This game doesn't confine you to just one area at a time to progress, but rather allows you to roam the entire map of every area as far as your current movement abilities allow to see what you're able to find around every corner. It is pretty easy to get lost in this world as it is quite big, but the more of these abilities you find, the more platforming segments you'll find that you're able to complete. It just feels so good to find a ground pound, high jump ability and suddenly click in your brain which places you've seen that you know it would be useful just to open up an entirely new, huge portion of the map that you haven't been able to access previously. Honestly, the formula for this game is just incredible, and it's helped by the fact that this character is just fun as hell to control. I did mention this mid-air attack move earlier that allows you to jump off of enemies, and I'm sure you've noticed throughout my footage so far that our character is indeed holding a weapon. Of course, there is combat in this game, and while it's normally not very necessary to make your way through a lot of these rooms, every now and then you do run into a tough enemy that you'll need to best in order to move on. I like that this game focuses on its movement more than its melee combat, because I'm much more attracted to free movement in platformers I enjoy, but the combat has been done very well here. Firstly, we just have a 3-hit combo. While hitting enemies, our magic meter will slowly fill up, and once we've filled 2 segments of it, we get extended range in our swings. Getting 3 sections filled, we also have a hefty damage bonus added to our melee. What our magic meter is mostly useful for, though, is healing our character. Much like Hollow Knight's healing system, we're able to consume some of our magic to heal our character as we take damage. So throughout much of the game, you'll be working within the balance of either holding onto your magic for improved combat ability, or consuming it to make sure that you don't die in the next platforming section. I really like this. I could gush about this game and its systems forever, but what is the main goal within this castle world? Well, upon reaching the top of this ominous tower, we run into a door that has 5 giant locks on it, and our goal is to discover the location of all these keys. Thankfully, at the top of this tower, we are met with plenty of guidance stones that point us in the right direction to find all of these keys. As we've likely only gotten up here pretty far into the game, it also makes traveling the world feel all the more fun to me. Suddenly we need to use all of our movement abilities in order to seek out these hidden key locations and make our way to the final encounter. With no bosses throughout this game so far, I didn't really know what to expect the ending challenge to be. Perhaps it would be some crazy platforming segment demanding all of the creative use of our abilities collected so far, or maybe it would just be a cutscene at the end of the game showing the resolution to our adventure. Actually, no, we do have a final boss here, and let me tell you, this final boss made me wish they had put a couple more bosses in the world, maybe guarding each of the golden keys that we needed to collect or something. This boss fight was incredibly fun. We've got projectiles to hit back at the boss, big slow moving projectiles we have to dodge while trying to get our hits in, crazy bullet hell moments to navigate as we make our way over to the boss to try hitting them a couple times. It's all very fun and creative, and I really can't praise this fight enough. It was such a surprise. After besting the baddie though, we get our second ever cutscene in this game, and it's just a white screen with dialogue. In this dialogue, we get a small one-sided conversation from this girl to our character, and she kinda just talks about being asleep and trying to escape the real world by staying here. Clearly though, she's been the cause of this castle's downfall, and she decides that she will wake up after all and maybe explore some of her interests in the waking world. Funny enough, she calls us a goat bunny cat lady, which I think is a pretty good description of what our main character looks like, before finally calling us by our name, Sybil. And with that, our journey has finally concluded. There are a ton of fun timed challenges and extra power-ups we're able to find in this game as well, in case you were seeking a fun journey to 100%ing this game, and a lot of these challenges will also yield different outfits that you're able to use as you play, which is quite fun, but as it stands, this is the end of my time with Pseudoregalia. I had an incredibly fun time playing through this game, and hopefully I've enlightened you all with the fact that it exists so that you'll pick it up and play it for yourself as well. These developers really knew what they were doing, and the vision they had for their game was a truly outstanding one. I'm glad I found out it existed, and I hope you are as well. If you like videos like these, diving for the first time into some really cool games, mostly retro or retro-inspired ones at that, I'm pretty sure you'll find a couple other videos on my channel that'll pique your interest. There are actually a couple that you can check out on screen right now. I put videos like this out every single Friday, so if you do decide to stick around and see every upload that I release, consider subscribing to the channel. As for this week, my name is Myloe, and I'm out.